This is John Charles in Seattle. Again, somebody threw dust towards my face last night. My eye will be okay. This is an ongoing problem. I'm being harassed every minute. Obviously, the people in Europe are trying to steal still. The government, somebody from the government went into accounts last night. They went into Caleb, my grandfather, that was in Atlanta. Somebody, they had moved that illegal computer down there. What I'm going to make this real simple in the sense of it's very important to listen to what I have to say. Everything that I've written is true down below. If you'd read it, you'd understand. I am at Westlake and Mercer Street, 600 Mercer, which is an Amazon and a Starbucks. I have been hacked by Howard Schultz for a long time. What I've done is I don't have any computers with me right now. There's no signal except me, and this is what I've carried since I was a child. The phones have been duplicated again. I just was robbed. Now Seattle police have duplicated. Somebody named Danny Gates with Seattle Police Department is running around with the phone trying to say it's him already. I've only had the phone for 3 days. They'll do an illegal hack on the phone and try to link in. It's exhausting. King County Police did this in the past, and then Seattle Police jumped over the top, so I'm bogged down by many signals. But I want to explain, they're saying that Christine out of West Seattle is a woman. They're trying to make all the accounts look like hers. I believe she's somebody linked to Carrie Kramer, who we have just met over the past 2 years. There's no way Christine is in this account. It's always been ours. And all these people are illegal traveling, and every one of them should be arrested. There should be no question that they have criminal intent, and they're trying to meet with people who are on our family and business lists, and they are being killed, and I need them all investigated, and I'm not being allowed to check on the names that were on the man of the year itinerary or any of the itineraries. I should have, the way my will is set up, my trust is set up, I should have airport money at every airport. I should have every port of call should have money for me that my itinerary is set up for. And that includes Grand Central Station in New York, LA Harbor, Long Beach Harbor, just about every airport. What that means is I should have passports set up, and I should have money. And that's the way the trust is. What you're trying to do is let people from the government use that money. Homeland Security, SeaTac Police, and King County Police are blocking me from leaving the airport. SeaTac Management are blocking me from leaving the airport. When I enter the airport, they will try to take tickets immediately. It used to be a huge crime where they were duplicating, and it'd be up to 100 people leaving at a time. This is $1 billion trust fund, and that means that type of money seems like nothing to people. It is money that I can use and I need right now. It is not a game. It is not a general public fund. It is a private trust, and I am one who is supposed to be executor in this trust to get this to people in the family and help manage businesses that may be on pay lines and needing money to help freshen up the business, give it another chance, make those decisions to see if they're too much of a loss, or if we can go ahead and figure out a way for them to expand loans, things like that. This is part of my family. This is business. This is not a game. This is not money for the businesses to take back our profits for 200 years. When Kraft and Philip Morris have 100 subsidiaries underneath that are involved with my family, and I don't have the opportunity to meet these wonderful people or talk about fees, talk about money, possibly cutting some of the pay lines. They've gone on so long, and the accounts were so big, and I'm not given that opportunity. It means that they're still in debt. and the accounts have been drained. The bank, the insurance companies are responsible for filling the accounts. They are not empty accounts. Whatever they have released, my family has not released. That means every one of these accounts on record over 5 years ago needs to be intact. And I want access to my money. Otherwise, it's a lawsuit. And anybody in government media, John Snow, John White, needs to go to jail immediately. The corruption we have involved, such as Blue Angels coming over. We had the Seafair account. What the Blue Angels do is enter the Seafair account, and ever since we were kids, we're supposed to fly with the Blue Angels and be with the naval brass that's here in town on the barges for the hydroplane. Never has happened. We've been talked about and scrutinized, and Jimmy, the Swedish Backy family, were allowed to go out, and Chip Hanauer's family and the Budweiser family. It's always been a crime. We do not want to release this money. King 5 TV went in and drained the account and split it up with their co-workers, making it very difficult for Seafair last year, which is something that I tried to get Seafair to cooperate with me and talk to me about. And what it's done is make them try to go into other accounts. This is the same time. The Mariner division includes Admiral Grant of the Royal Navy, a Royal Navy account, a ship account, a shipbuilding account, being robbed by a celebrity cruise line. It also probably has the John Charles Shipping, the Dutch East Indies, the Hudson Bay, robbed by the Hudson, Janet Hudson, and the ridiculous people that aren't supposed to be in any of these accounts. My bank managers were deprived of the opportunity of meeting my family. It's obvious we have a Jack Charles and a Harry Charles and a Mike Charles in these accounts still not talking to us. We have family members that are 10,000 years ahead of these people, even though their name is Charles. It is just, this is a Charles trust. It is a bloodline that's direct, and the Queen of Sweden, the King of Sweden are not above us in this trust. They have to have our blood and be, if they're in that royal family, and have our blood to be in the allowed trust. They cannot just take our finance, buy it, and cash out the accounts that are in Sweden. They cannot do it. Those were our family's accounts. Same with Finland, Denmark. Those were our family's accounts. It doesn't matter whether they're royal or not. They were left to us in America. Those accounts should have been shifted, and the money should have come here. You cannot take the money back. It's our trust fund. We have been murdered for generations. This is ours. It's casks and barrels are stolen for restaurants in the city, of oil barrels, sugar barrels, salted fish barrels. All these casks and barrels and measurements were done by my family, hard work by hand, and railroad ties, fence posts, iron gates which aren't the gate foundation money. There were iron gates for castles, for mansions, for buildings. These are fences and gates made of iron, okay? They're made of iron and steel. They're expensive. These accounts were huge. The Bill Gates Foundation and Bill Gates and Melinda Gates are not iron gates. That has nothing to do with technology. It has nothing to do with them whatsoever. And they're stealing the accounts and breaking them open. And exploring to see where their family is. These are in divisions. Their techs have broken these divisions up. They cannot show this trust in entirety on a screen and read it. It has to be handled in a law office. It cannot be open on a general computer. And these were put through C+ on computers for the general public to hide their crime. I can test and say that they're in a house. They went into, I believe it was Babish, the first computer operator account, first built man-made computers account that Bill Gates and Paul Allen tried to say was theirs. And they just aren't the first people to do a computer. They aren't, and that was part of the trust through the German investment and relatives and bloodline. And when money comes out of this allowed trust, the old bankers used to have them pay it back, and that's how it works. It's that simple. It is not a general fund. It is fair that it is my money. It is fair. Do you know why? Because I can be an executor and give it to people that deserve it, and we can continue to make it work for, not only for my family, which we don't get money for at this point, but for the United States of America and the world in general. Because that's the type of brain I have. I don't think about destroying money that creates interest that is part of an economy. It's not. When you see Olympic and you are like a Bruce Jenner or a Apollo Ono and think you deserve the entire Olympic fund, you have mental issues. You're insane, because this account's been there for 1,000 years. It's been linked to so many Olympiads. It's ridiculous. I have to move on, because I can talk about this forever. But let me make something clear. We have dealt with World War I, World War II, and the Spanish Revolution, so many different wars. And what we have are people who wanted to take this over in Germany and Russia because of Prussia and Germany. And I believe Sweden is very involved with Russia, much more so a neutral country. What we're finding out right now is the links with Russia are insane. And when they maintain neutrality in the war, it's just a bridge, I believe, to not get killed, and allowing Russia to do much more than people thought. I know that their allegiance is strong with Germany as well, but at this point, I would have to put red alert on Sweden. I do not believe their intent is good. The actions with the Nordstroms, I believe the Nordstroms could have been doubled by Russians or Ukrainians already. And it's a serious problem how so much finance could move to Sweden at one time and our family not be included. The Vackies possibly could have been a big part of this problem, but when we talk about Catherine, this is one of the links to Sweden. She was the Queen of Sweden. This is my great-great aunt. The Swedes have to have her blood in this situation. Many different situations in the relationship of our German family with Sweden and the royals, but in this situation, when we're talking about German wealth and the links to Italy, Spain, and other countries to try to dominate the situation, Switzerland as well, to try to dominate the situation. As Leopold of Austria is another one that comes up through Habsburg. He has to have our blood to take over the entire trust or go in it and start taking multiple accounts. Otherwise, what I was willing to do is redignify these. Having this type of situation with World War I and World War II and wars between Germany and Russia and Germany and America, and surprisingly Germany and France and England. And what you have to realize is this.
I made this by accident.
Oh.
Do you want it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is it iced coffee? Thank you. So what has happened is we have got espionage involved in this, trying to move this money out to use it in government for military and things like that. We had a Garrison account that was broken into, and the family's name Garrison is trying to take over this account, and it is just not a family account. And this happens repeatedly. Last night, the Borden's account was moved. They're claiming this is Borden's milk. It's linked to the dairies. It's linked to the German line of transport. If you read what I put in my writings yesterday, we talked about merino wool and cashmere, and how when it first started out, the first Indo-European movements or Eastern world movements of sheep through trade, the hornless sheep that went into Ireland, part of the tribal movements of the world, into the ancient Irish and Scottish and their links to the Middle East and the bridges between East and West. the hornless sheep was there in Scotland, and it was a very, very the beautiful sheep we saw in all the art with the little children and angels, and this blend was blended with the sheeps with horns, and German sheep were very nice. We are a German bloodline, so German cashmere and Scottish wool ended up, and their early Middle Eastern sheep ended up blending in the 1800s with the German sheep, making one of the finest wools there are in the world, one of the wools we use today in commercial use. So the combination that Scotland and Germany links to Mary Queen of Scots and Queen Anne, King George II, even King Charles II on his grandmother's side. These are Brunswick Lunenburgs. This is what is not taught. This is what a Brunswick Lunenburg is. It was a cross migration. When I'm writing about us being involved with the Cabots and the Gilberts, they were trade. They were Drake. They were the traders. They were the early Bretons. Okay, this is not a pure bloodline. It's a German-based trust. It's Brunswick Lunenburg. And you have to be involved in the explorers and the trade routes of the world. That's why the money keeps coming in. That's why I'm at Charles. That's why I'm in it. That's why Gilbert is in it, because that's one of my great-great-great-great-grandfathers, or one of his brothers. And they were step brothers. They were adopted to Sir Walter Raleigh. And that is how they're called royal blood. Other than that, their parents are not identified. So when somebody says Christine, what a Christine and Mikosha is, or they were agents that came into this country to try to move, and they ended up staying. Many of the Russians here are old agents, some KGB, that moved into America to live. They had information on the trust during that time period when they were building Hanford, when they were building the nuclear submarine base, watching the money from this trust fund move in to help support these Defense Department and atomic energy investments and technology growth. It's factual. The old Tesla and General Electric are what were invested through Senator Jackson and Magnuson in the state of Washington. This was not their family's fund. It's like it's not Mike Borden is not Borden milk. That's because of dairy equipment. That's because of the Holstein cattle. That is our connection with cheese as well. Is the shipping of domestic animals into America. Not the first always, sometimes involved with the first cattle to Plymouth, yes. The Holsteins, yes, involved in a lot of the Holstein movements and the cattle movements, and old beef accounts from Spain, moving those Spanish and through Italy and through Germany, and even France, hard meats. This is why Merlino ended up going into wool instead of staying with hard meats, because and now they try to use the money for construction. Danny Merlino is very guilty of going into the wool fund. His family has no relationship to wool. It's underneath our trust fund, and the money should be returned right now. I should see a Merlino sausage truck. It's not wool. And they're in our hard meat money anyway. They opened up Opto 30 years ago and robbed my father and claimed he wasn't Italian enough. The problem is they're not German enough and not Spanish enough. And we do have that blood. So there's a problem today. My last problem I want to point out is with Uber using our driver fund and illegally connecting to my locations and sending people on trips using this is a part of the old trust, and that's where our security was, and that is where that's our protection security. That is not building security. That is being robbed. The same Somalis that are driving the Ubers are doing security in the buildings. And this East African connection was identified again as Obama trying to filter last week through the East African countries, as he did once before when he took a phone and tried to run it through the Ethiopian banks. That phone was loaded when he went on his Ethiopian tour, and everybody knows it was money he tried to cash through East Africa, linked to Marcatus and many other people involved in trying to transfer this money out and said didn't have a home. His involvement with the attempted robbery of the banks in Long Beach was huge. Those are container profits and shipping profits. These container profits are being robbed like crazy right now because of the malignment of the accounts because of the apparent loss of my brother or kidnapping. We understand that he is punished. The accounts that whatever is fed into my brother's accounts is black gangs, black mafia will go in and take money out and bill him. As I've said before, growing up in Rainier Beach, the older blacks calling us their bitch, and the money is theirs and will be their slave for the rest of their lives. And this is the type of abuse I've had to grow up with. I'm definitely not a gangster. And of course, if I get mad, I can change my tones in my voice. But you have to understand, it's like growing up in France. If I have an argument with a Frenchman, if I grew up there, I might turn French. If I grew up in Rainier Beach and I get mad and I'm dealing with that type of mentality, then that's what I'm going to fight back with. And I have to be that tough to live and to be alive right now. It is not fun. I do not enjoy being where I'm at. And I do want to leave and I do want to handle my accounts. And I'm totally capable of it. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not a pervert. And I'm not a drug addict. And I do not need to deal drugs. I never have been a drug dealer. I have known people in the cartel. I could have dealt kilos and made hundreds of thousands of dollars. My choice is to be a hairdresser and make nothing. It's just not the type of person I am. I'm absolutely anti-crime. I'm absolutely pro-honesty, as honest as you can be. The money is mine. My father is being beaten to hell. He was threatened the other day on the streets because we had to meet and I needed some money. And they said that he had to give them money. So I had to get in an argument with the black man, telling him that I was going to call the police and claim he was harassing my father and harassing me, trying to steal money. I don't want to live like this. Faye Moss and Bill Moss and Brady Moss and Joe Moss and Shannon Umbrella live right there in Renton and have robbed him for years. They're linked to his computer and claim they're a family, and they will not give him his money and take the pressure off me and him. Some of that money is mine. Joe Moss went into John Griffin. John Griffin is a German Griffin, a Griffin related to us. He also went into the links in New York that linked to my family, not his. Joe Moss is a criminal. I want my money. He shouldn't be gambling with my money. He shouldn't be traveling with my money. Brady and Biff Moss, same thing, stealing the Thailand money. When I was in Thailand, then trying to murder me in Thailand. They're guilty of a huge crime. Same with the Eilerts, the Brooks, and Bob and Kathy Johnson, who live on the hill, right? But whoever Johnson and Johnson's stock, Pfizer stock, and many others, and will not return it because of his military links. He thinks he's above the law. It's not it cannot happen anymore. No more. I want the money returned. Becky Eilert, Nancy Brooks, Amy Griffin, Morrissey Griffin, Ben Griffin. I want our money back. Daryl Griffin, Jim Griffin. So I want to hang out with Jim Griffin and Brady Moss, and that's it in this family. That is it. I want my money returned. The bank in Ellensburg and Prosser, Washington, they need to be closed. Those accounts need to be turned over to me in a different bank and closed. They're running John Griffin from the Charles family, not the Griffins that married in. They already knew about that. They married in to steal the money. John Griffin is my family, and he's out of New York, and he was a congressman. That is not Faye Moss, Faye Griffin. That is not that family that married Frederick William Charles. It is not that family. They are criminals. I want the money returned. Just like Gilbert and the Cartier money. That is part of a very, very, very prestigious family in America and a sovereign line of Americans. I want the money. This is real history. This is where the Germans, the French, the Dutch, and the English lived together before the war, before the battles. We were the real family, and that's what we were. There was no separation until the nations and the governments tried to take over the money, and then they sent our relatives, and then they tried to destroy us. So when King George came in, we had already fought the battles to get into America, leaving Germany, having to come down through Hertford and Devon, and then sail instead of with the Queen, under the Queen with the Bretons. And then they came back and supported us. And that's why we were left money. But that is German through King George and King Charles's mother's side. That is not their money. That is our money. Harry has no right to it. There are accounts that can be negotiated, and that's what I try to do. But you will not let John Charles leave the country and take care of these affairs. So it gets worse with Poland. It gets worse with Russia. It gets worse with the old Soviet states. It gets worse with France. No, I'm a Breton, and I'm Champagne. We were in the Champagne district and Chartless, and we were where the first air balloons were made. Those Chartless, Jacques Charles, that is part of our family. It is fair. John Charles in Seattle. I want money immediately.